My wife had a diary where she wrote what made her happy. It wasn't me. Update. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss another cheating story goes live. On the night of my first post, I'd done a huge amount of thinking. I posted in the middle of a double shift at work and was highly emotional by the time I'd finished. I went home and went to bed at around 4 a.m. When I woke, I went and spoke to my wife. I told her I couldn't trust her. Two things I found fundamental in a marriage and relationship: fidelity and supporting the other in times of need. She'd neglected both of those. I want to separate. I told her all this deadpan. I'm getting very good at expressing myself with my words only. There's been a few times where she has gotten defensive or out of line, and I've found disengaging to be the best tactic. I've said that she will have to reason or justify what she did in her own mind, but it won't be at my expense. For someone who had plenty of time to consider the consequences of her actions, she didn't take it well. I mentioned splitting things, time with our daughter and divorce, which is a lengthy process here. She was in shock. 2 days later we had our last couples session. Before we left, she initiated a discussion about getting the house ready and possibly selling in January. Pretty quick turnaround from shock, I thought. I told the counselor of my decision and spoke about why. I was putting my whole self into the relationship and my family's future. I'd neglected to keep being and taking time for myself. If ever there was a good time to assess who I am and what I want from life, it's now. Since then it's been a bit weird. There are reasons beyond our control that she doesn't have an option to leave. I'm not going to kick her out. My daughter is my life now. She needs her mom too. And it's nearly Christmas. I've been talking to her about practical things, but occasionally the conversation will turn back to feelings. She keeps asking how I feel about her. I tell her the same thing every time. I love you. I care about you. But how I feel about you and how I feel about what you did are two completely different things. And that's how I feel. I've always wanted the life I had with her. She was my best friend too. 15 years is a long time, seemingly longer when it's almost half your life. The majority of my personal memories are things we did together. She's tainted it. Our daughter is with my wife's mom today and at night. Today I'm going golfing with some mates I've reconnected with. Then I'll go home. We were meant to be going horse riding for our 3rd anniversary. Instead, we're going to talk about division of assets and custody. So romantic. She has actually been really reasonable when it comes to division of things. We have no fault divorce here, but she's happy for us to both take what we have. We've always had mostly separate money, and I have more. It's part of why I'm keeping my head. It's a good deal for me and I see no reason to make her be nasty. It wouldn't make anyone feel better. I read an interesting quote the other day: that which yields is not always weak. Choose your victories wisely. I'm going to win out of this anyway because I know I have my best interests in mind and those of my daughter. She'll find out about this eventually. Kids always do. I have an opportunity to learn and teach from it. About how you treat people and how you do or don't let people treat you. About healthy relationships and self-worth. What you're willing to tolerate becomes the standard. Set yourself high standards. Here are some of the best comments from our community. Be on guard. Watch the accounts. Put alerts on them. Cheaters get really squirrely when their world implodes. Don't be surprised if she comes to you for sex and other nonsense, blah blah blah. I was so stupid. Don't give in. Negotiate to get what you want in the divorce. Stay strong, man. I'm very impressed by you. Your ability to admit your love for her to her face, but also admit to yourself and her that her actions supersede your feelings. I'm also jealous, as your cheater sounds at least moderately willing to work this out like an adult. My STBXW is still hating me and wanting to pretend all is normal and we can be friends despite cheating and lying during the reconciliation with a new rando. You're where I want to be. Able to be around her and just be seemingly normal. I just can't. She's shown too much disrespect and lack of empathy or understanding of what she's done, now twice to me and our family she is destroying. Here is the second story. 6 months before we got married, my wife cheated on me. 5 weeks post D-Day and I feel like I'm just going through the motions. My wife openly admitted to having an affair 13 years ago, 6 months before we were married. Up to the point that she told me, we have never been more in love or more comfortable in our lives. We both have full-time jobs close to home. Our kids are 17 to 14 and require, sometimes demand less of our attention, and we get to spend a lot more time with each other and got closer than I ever thought possible. Hearing about other couples' problems made me laugh because we are so good together. We've been together almost 19 years and still have sex 5 to 7 times a week. Rarely argue. Great communication. Loving and affectionate towards each other. I know that's why she confessed, and I believe 98% of what she's telling me. There's some questions I've asked that she says she can't remember, but they're mostly trivial. His name? How long were you talking to him online before you went out? She thinks they were having an online affair for close to a month and she met him once, they kissed, she felt bad and left. How cliché, I know. Where did you tell me you were going? I guess she really can't remember, but it's almost irrelevant at this point, almost 14 years later. I know she told me because of guilt and she's been remorseful. But she's had a long time to deal with this and minimize it. My memory is a lot better than hers. I remember her sinking into an online poker, free, addiction and cutting off sex with me for 6 weeks and not coming to bed until 2 to 3 a.m. I remember her not doing any chores or anything with our 3 years and 6 month-old daughters, aside from bathing them. I remember being suspicious and you turning it around on me. I remember you making up excuses for not having sex and blaming it on things I wasn't doing for you. I remember having to earn sex with you when we finally started to have sex again. When, if you really felt bad, you should have showered me with love. I remember years of jealousy before and after the affair. To the point that I now have social anxiety around women. I remember you really pouring it on hard in the year after the affair and made my life miserable. I remember fighting for our relationship when in hindsight I can see now that you had given up. I know neither of us are the same person we were back then. But I'm really having a hard time seeing her as the same person I did 5 weeks ago. I feel as though we should have been over back then and the last 13 years have been a waste. I was only 23 and she was 24 at the time. We could have easily moved on and made a life with other people. But she kept it a secret and married me 6 months later, and 6 months after that we bought our first house. Now we have everything we ever dreamed of having and are content in life at 37 to 38 and she springs this on me. I still love her and we're trying to work through it. But if I can feel that deep loving connection I felt with her before. When our bare skin would touch, it was like my soul was recharging and my heart was melting. Like nothing else in the world mattered at that time. I don't feel that anymore. Will it come back? Can I be happy without it? Man, I didn't think this would fuck me up this bad. When we're together, I try to act normal because it's hard for me to be mad at her for something that happened that long ago. I'm finding it harder and harder to bring up questions about the affair. So I just kinda go through the motions. But when we're apart, I'm angry, heartbroken, sad, depressed. I've lost almost 20 pounds and have no drive to do any of the things I enjoy. I feel so stupid and betrayed. Edit, I left out an important detail regarding why she came clean after all these years. We have always been very sexually explorative and I brought up the subject of a MFM threesome 5 to 6 years ago. At first, she didn't want anything to do with it and was hurt by the suggestion. Once I explained my POV on the topic, she slowly started to warm up to the idea. We have been talking about it a lot, role-playing etc. for the past 2 years and we're talking about trying baby steps IRL. I know that this is why she told me after all these years. She tried to kiss a guy 13 years ago and couldn't, and she wanted everything in our relationship to be open and honest before we took that fantasy any further. Here are some of the best comments from our community. It might have happened years ago and your wife had years and years to process it, but for you it just happened 5 weeks ago and you had little time to process what that means. She not only had an affair, she also lied to you for so many years, so of course you look at her differently now. In addition, the way she treated you during and after the affair makes it even harder because it feels as if she blamed you for the decision she made and watched you suffer while she was the one that stepped out of your marriage. Sweeping this under the rug while being the final nail in your coffin, so don't do that. Talk to her, let her know how you feel and look together for ways to work through this. Be it with the help of a counselor or with books that you both read. What happened back then changed what you have between you today as well. You see her differently now and no longer like you did 5 weeks ago. In addition, she didn't come clean because she thought that it is in your best interest, she just wanted to get rid of the feeling of guilt that she carried around. Be honest with her now, tell her that you have a lot to work through if you both not only want this marriage to survive but also to last and be happy in it. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.